Now, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will deliver his first medium-term budget this week. There are a lot of expectations as South Africans face financial hardship. Let's find out what the Black Sash expects from the statement in terms of social justice. Amanda Rinquest from the organisation joins us now. Good afternoon, Amanda. We all know that the policy statement is less on numbers and more on policy direction of the country. But what would you like to see from the Finance Minister in terms of that policy?
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the eNCA viewers. Yeah, the Black Sash has a very clear idea of what we want from the policy, and that is for the Minister to make the social relief of distress grant permanent. The grant is due to end in March next year. This has been a year of the grant being implemented, then ending, then being implemented again, leaving the poorest of the poor uncertain about where their next meal is going to come from. So the Black Sash would like the Minister in his inaugural address to increase the 350 Rand grant to a dignified and moral amount at the upper bound poverty line of 1,335 Rand, or at the lower bound at the food poverty line of 680 Rand, 48 Rand, and make it permanent until we implement basic income support for all.
No, it is important, I take it, in policy to also focus on somehow closing the inequality gap as opposed to just perhaps growing the economy. But in terms of the social relief, there's also this conversation now about the family poverty grant that many have been talking about. I'm not quite sure if you're quite familiar with it, but what's your take on that one?
The Black Sash, along with its partners, has issued a statement condemning the idea of a family grant. And I don't think we must continue to lend any credence to this very bizarre and irrational idea of there existing a nuclear family and that nuclear family must get a grant. It doesn't take into account the history of migrant labor in South Africa, that the nuclear family is very different in 2021, and that this kind of grant would probably only fuel gender-based violence and make women who are victims of gender-based violence more dependent on their male partner. So we reject that idea, and we will continue to call for individual universal basic income grants for individuals.
No, it is a very interesting one, because the first question that came to mind for me was this registry. Where are we going to get the details as it stands now? Because we don't have a registry to begin with as to who lives in which household. And like you say, migration. We've got these type of family setups now where we have extended family members living here and then in 3 months they've gone. So it really would be difficult to implement, one would assume.
That is the most surprising thing, that the government, who has heard Black Sash and others continuously speak about the data shortfalls that the Department of Social Development already has, would want to implement this grant. Yeah, so I mean, the census hasn't happened. The census still needs to happen for us to get that kind of data. People have already spoken about how Stats SA is underfunded, and so I don't know when that will happen. But secondly, the Black Sash has continuously spoken about the outdated existing data we have and how that's affected people trying to receive the 350 Rand grant. So, for example, NSFAS, TERS, UIF, and SARS database have been so unupdated, so out of not updated, sorry, I'm losing my words, are so outdated that it means that people have been excluded from the 350 grant because it says they're still receiving UIF even though they haven't been employed for 4 years. And these databases need to be rectified before we even try to create a family register.
No, it makes sense. Amanda, thank you very much. That's Amanda Rinquest, the National Training and Education Manager from Black Sash, just giving us expectation ahead of that medium-term budget.